This video is going to be a film study look at Boye Mafe, one of the Seattle Seahawks players that I think could possibly benefit the most from Mike McDonald signing there as the head coach. I think Mafe, who will be entering his third year as an outside linebacker D-end, is the specific guy, one of the two that I think could grow into a superstar quickly. Now, multiple guys really fall into that category on Seattle's roster. Well, let me be specific on the defensive side of the ball. Witherspoon, Woolen, even Uchenna Nwosu. But Mafe, to me, is the guy who I think could benefit the most from consistent productivity, statistically, which would boost his reputation and eventually his salary. And entering his third year, it's an important season. If you look at Mike McDonald's defenses, the trajectory in terms of his first year in Baltimore in 2022, and the season before that, his first year as a defense coordinator at University of Michigan, you see consistency in terms of the edge defenders producing 10-plus sacks. Multiple guys in most cases, to be honest with you, are able to do that. I want to focus on Mafe. I've been a big fan of his since the 2022 draft when the Seahawks picked him out of Minnesota. Probably done too many videos on him for being a Ravens content creator, but the physical attributes and the speed and athleticism are obvious. The motor and the intensity and the pursuit, the tenacity, I should say, is what really sticks out on the film, if you ask me. I compare him to some of the other edge defenders, outside linebackers that were drafted in 2022. Aiden Hutchinson, Trayvon Walker, and Kayvon Thibodeau, and George Karlaftis. The first three of those obviously were first-round picks. I think Mafe belongs in that category from many evaluation points. First of all, he had incredible testing numbers in the 2022 NFL draft, or prior to it, I should say. I think his RAS score was a 991. It's like top 15 all-time for defensive ends, outside linebackers. Had an amazing 40-yard dash score, 4.53, for a guy who's 6'4", 260. And his 10-yard and 20-yard splits were pretty incredible as well. Keep in mind that the only two outside linebackers in this previous NFL draft, 2024, that exceeded or beat that 4.53 40 time was Dallas Turner and Chop Robinson. Basically, Boye Mafe is an athletic freak at 6'4", 260. His rookie year played particularly well against the run. Also on special teams, by the way. Great kickoff guy on at least three of the games that I watched his rookie season, but certainly didn't have as much impact in the pass game as a pass rusher as a rookie in 2022 as Aiden Hutchinson and even George Karlaftis. Thibodeau and Walker didn't really make the jump until their second year, which coincides with Mafe. Look, all three of those guys tripled their sack output. Thibodeau went from 4 to 11.5, so almost tripled. Walker went from 3.5 to 10, so again, almost tripled. And then Mafe went from 3 sacks to 9. George Karlaftis is another guy who had 6 and I think almost doubled his output. I think Mafe is extremely tough against the run. He's got a really good motor. His pursuit, I think, stacks up against any other outside linebacker in the league. And I want to illustrate that with a pair of plays against the Baltimore Ravens from this past season. So this is a 2-play sequence during their Week 9 loss in Baltimore. This first one, all 22 angle. It's a 23-yard run by Lamar Jackson. And the Ravens dominated Seattle, and it was a blowout win. But I want to show 2 plays from the same possession. They sandwich a third play that I'm not going to show you. These get lost in the shuffle because of how incredible the Ravens defense played that day. And it's Lamar. The scramble is impressive. It got the attention that it should. It's the second quarter. The Ravens are leading 7-0 at this point. And Mafe is up top, as you see by the spot shadow. This is before the real onslaught occurred. And he beats the left tackle, Ronnie Stanley. Same move on both of the pass plays that I'm going to show you. But I think this really does his speed and tenacity justice. Lamar is able to escape, clearly. But I think it says a lot that you have a 6'4", 260-pound outside linebacker that gets lost here. It's Lamar Jackson. He gets away from damn near everybody. But Mafe's not just challenging him with his speed, but he actually recovers after losing balance temporarily. And when Lamar chooses not to go out of bounds, like a lot of other quarterbacks would, Mafe's able to get in on the tackle, and actually he is the guy who gets credit for the tackle. Same play, end zone angle is second time through. Look, I understand you may say, Coach, it's a 23-yard gain. Why are you giving the guy credit for it? Well, first of all, there was no contain on the other side. He did actually win against the left tackle, Ronnie Stanley. Second of all, for his size, 6'4", 260, 6'3 and a half, I guess, if you go by the combine numbers from 2022, it's pretty amazing. What's also amazing is what he did next. He didn't come off the field after chasing Lamar from all the way on the other side of the field and actually forces a turnover here 2 plays later. Same move against the same left tackle, Ronnie Stanley. No help for Stanley at all. Look, this is definitely one of the few highlights for Seattle in that game. Don't get me wrong, but I think it illustrates his athleticism, his just dogged pursuit, and also the technical ability to produce this strip sack with a really nice, clean, quick move. Where he briefly threatens the inside to kind of hold Ronnie Stanley's inside leverage, just enough to where the SWAT breaks Stanley's posture enough for him to get around the edge. The length, the timing, the reach there, the timing of the SWAT, I should say, to get around Stanley, and then the timing of the SWAT to knock the ball out. Look, in the grand scheme of things, like I said, it doesn't stack up against the totality of what the Ravens did that day. I'm a Ravens fan. I'm glad for the way that it turned out from a Baltimore perspective, but I can't lie. This is a unique 2-play sequence for an outside linebacker, even an outside linebacker edge defender in the NFL. Those guys are incredibly athletic. I think it shows what he can do. Excuse me, not what he can do, what he actually does now at a really high level. He had 9 sacks in 2023. At one point, he posted a sack or more in 7 consecutive games. One interesting thing to note about that, I'm sure this has been covered by the Seahawks media or Seahawks content creators, because that fan base has such high standards for the team, the players, and their content creators. Mafe just became the 3rd player to record a sack in 7 consecutive games in their first 2 years in the league. Only other guys to do that: Aldon Smith with the 49ers and Javon Kearse with the Titans. Pretty unbelievable company. Now, another thing that I'm pretty sure has been covered by Seahawks content creators, I'm going to touch on it, and you guys let me know in the comment section. On the topic of sacks, Mike McDonald's defensive system is going to produce sacks while being sound in coverage. He's not going to expose the back end of the coverage in order to create more pressure. There is this kind of perception that I have heard that McDonald runs the Ravens defense, following in the footsteps of Wink Martindale, Dean Pease, Chuck Pagano, all the way dating back to Rex Ryan. That just couldn't be farther from the truth. McDonald runs his own system that has plays for the defense to run in specific situations. And the defenders have to be multiple in playing different versions of the same coverage. 3 or 4 or 5 different versions of cover 3, 2 or 3 or 4 different versions of cover 2 or Tampa 2. The idea is to create some post-snap conflict for the quarterback. Other people, I'm sure, have explained it in more detail than I will here, but it has an impact in terms of the yards per completion by the quarterback and also the number of sacks generated. So this video is obviously about Boye Mafe, but let me briefly explain what I mean and try to illustrate it somewhat with a little bit of film. Why is Mike McDonald, why is his system able to create post-snap confusion for the quarterback, not limit themselves or expose the defense, that is, to big plays on the back end, and generate more sacks? They've had 108 sacks in the past 2 seasons in Baltimore, they being Mike McDonald's defenses. Prior to that, Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo combined, I believe, for 25 sacks in 2001 together. It is a system. It's Mike McDonald's system, not the Ravens. We'll let different illustrations of certain coverages that the Ravens played flow through. Look, what he wants to do is present similar looks to the quarterback pre-snap, and then his defenders have to execute multiple coverages post-snap and multiple coverages and stunts with a high degree of efficiency. And what I mean when I say multiple is the same coverage but executed a different way. And they also have to know how to, or when to check out of certain blitzes, coverages based on the formation, meaning McDonald's defenders have to understand what coverage, blitz, stunt is not a good match for the formation or the threat that's offered by a formation, and know when to check out of it. There's this very real limitation of big plays at the same time that you have confusion created post snap for the quarterback and any wide receivers or tight ends that have to adjust their routes. Now, look, it's all predicated, if you ask me, on stopping or limiting the run. So is it possible that the initial returns for the Seahawks are a little bit different, given the commitment to the run game by the Rams and 49ers, teams they'll play twice each? I guess you can say that. I'm not going to argue with you necessarily. I think McDonald's system is going to impact other teams more so than other teams' offensive strategy impacts him. And I think the level of talent also is going to afford him and the defense as a whole a quicker rise. Mafe, Woolen, Witherspoon, Nwosu, Julian Love. I actually really like Kobe Bryant, what I've seen him play. The talent at their disposal, I think, will allow them to dramatically improve upon being 25th in the league in points allowed the last 2 years, in my opinion. That can happen a lot faster here than it did in other places, including Baltimore. And the guy I'm choosing to focus on in this video tonight, I think, has an opportunity to be at the center of that, and that's Boye Mafe. As I mentioned earlier, McDonald's defense put up 108 sacks in 2022 and 2023, 60 last year. The following guys all put up career-high numbers in sacks or matched their career high. Jadeveon Clowney, Justin Madubuike, Kyle Van Noy. The Ravens last year had 16 different players register sacks in 2023, including 7 different guys with 3 or more. Rewind one more year prior to that, in 2022, Justin Houston at age 33 puts up 9.5 sacks. He moved on to the Carolina Panthers this past year. He was released by the end of the season. I'm saying Mike McDonald's system appears to put edge defenders in position to capitalize on the confusion that the coverage element creates on the back end. Basically, the quarterback has to hold on to the ball slightly longer to try to figure out the coverage, and by that time, some of the edge defenders, defensive tackles, in the case of Justin Madubuike, can win. They finished 3rd in points allowed in 2022, they being the Ravens defense, and 1st last year in 2023. Look, Seattle already had 47 sacks last year. Mafe had 9. Jaron Reed had 7, the defensive tackle. Now they've drafted Byron Murphy at 16. Some people called him the best defensive player in the draft. There's talent at every level of the defense in Seattle, enough that, if you ask me, they'll be able to do what Mike McDonald likes to do, which is line up waves of good players at all 3 levels of the defense, slow or stop the run, and then put you in the Mike McDonald grinder, which is 3rd and 4 plus, and you have no idea what coverage is coming as a quarterback or offensive coordinator. So to be able to call plays, you're already at a disadvantage. And then the coverage versatility on the back end makes the outside linebackers and defensive tackles' jobs even easier. I think Boye Mafe is one of the main guys that'll benefit from that. One play that really becomes obvious that you cannot run to his side is a boot concept. Because of the athleticism, the burst, the size, and the actual tackling ability on NFL quarterbacks, guys that are at an athletic disadvantage compared to him, there's just really no one outside of maybe Lamar Jackson who on a boot concept is going to be able to either beat him to the sideline or avoid getting hit or crunched like you're going to see in these plays here. He's usually the left side defensive end outside linebacker, but he switches sides. I'm interested to see what happens in Mike McDonald's defense. There's just really no way for quarterbacks on these boot concepts to get away from a guy who has such high recognition on this concept. So I'm going to show you some run plays here in a moment that will look very similar. Now, this is obviously a fake toss, so at some point he's going to see the football, but the design of this is such that he cannot see the football. The quarterback's back is in the way of the views of Boye Mafe's view, so he's got to honor moving down the line of scrimmage to perhaps chase if it is tossed, and try to stay square enough to where he can divert off to go get the quarterback. My point is his size, explosiveness, and speed, ability to put his foot in the ground and just go, are such that He's a perfect defensive end for teams that want to run the ball to their left and then boot back to their right, because you just can't get away from him, at least not NFL quarterbacks with their level of athleticism typically. It's borderline unfair to see 6 different NFL teams run boot concepts back to his side, and either Boye Mafe produce sacks like the play you just saw there against Carolina, or disrupt the play and get a hit on the quarterback like you saw in the first 2 plays, one against the Browns and one against the Titans. It also makes me wonder what the heck some of those other teams were watching that they thought that would be a successful concept to run to his side. Here's some of the corresponding run concepts that go away from Mafe, and he's still able to get to the point of attack, and in fact, in most cases, make the tackle from behind, or at least disrupt it as a backside flow player so the running back can't cut back. Give you the end zone angle of 2 of them. Mafe is again located on the defense's left. Now, there is a stunt here with an edge blitz by a slot defender. In this case, I think it's Witherspoon, the corner. But this is a read by Mafe, whereby he's reading the inside player. If that inside player, in this case the tackle, was to step to him, he's going to have to ricochet off the guy and then try to get upfield. In this case, he sees step flow to that side, so he knows he's going to run and chase the ball down from behind. Too big, too strong, too fast for running backs to be able to get away from him and generate anything more than the 1 or 2 yards that you'll see in most of these cut-ups. The film that I watched, which was 7 games, I feel like is quite significant. I find Boye Mafe on run concepts to him to be far better than I've heard others characterize. There's times where I've seen him get reached, if you will, meaning the tight end or the tackle to his side, in this case it's a tight end, is able to get to his outside shoulder. In this case, he appears to be getting comboed by the tackle and the tight end, the outside tight end who is able to reach him. Mafe is one of the rare guys who's able to go underneath of this and still make the tackle. And oh, by the way, that's against Derrick Henry, one of the best running backs in the league, limiting him to only 3 yards. Very few outside linebackers, edge defenders in the NFL have I seen who illustrate the awareness to be able to do this. He's got a tightly aligned tight end to his side, back away. There's no run, there's no back threat to his side. There's really sweep path to him or off tackle to him. In this case, he identifies that the tight end who's just outside of him, Njoku, is going to step down. So he takes his path to the outside. This is quite simple. Just defeat the scheme. He is involved in a tackle for loss there, I think, along with Jamal Adams. Let it flow through one more time. I find him to have a really high level of awareness, particularly against the run. I thought the same thing in 2022. His pass rush technique, skills, the immediacy of his pass rush moves in 2022, his rookie year, didn't seem to be there. That seems to have exploded in 2023, I think illustrated by having a sack or more in 7 consecutive games and finishing with 9. I think he had 2 sacks in the late season game against the Titans. But this right here is what he did during his rookie year as well. This meaning the awareness to understand how he's probably going to get blocked based upon the formation and the location of the ball on the field, meaning wide side of the field to his side or short side. And then does he have anyone lined up outside of him who can pin down like Njoku tried to do there? Last one, an F counter scheme, this time on the right side of the defense. So you've got a tight end and a pulling guard moving from right to left to his side, and he has the athletic ability to collision the upfield shoulder and then still fold inside to make the tackle. I think it goes down for a 3-yard gain for Kareem Hunt. Not exactly the way that I would try to coach someone to do it, but then again, never coached anyone nearly as athletic as Boye Mafe, and I think for the level of athleticism that he has, the level of speed and explosiveness, most people would not focus on his awareness. I think he's incredibly smart. I think you see it in his reaction to blocks, particularly in this game against the Browns, but also against the Titans. Understanding, I think there's some very real and clear evidence of a guy who has understanding of the plays he's probably going to see based on the formation. And I think that'll only be accentuated even more in a Mike McDonald defense. A couple more pass rush examples just to talk about one aspect I'd like to hopefully illustrate to you, which is economy of movement, economy of moves. He's a no-nonsense no BS edge rusher, if you ask me. There doesn't seem to be a ton of flash. He would almost remind me of a basketball player who goes to the basket a ton and doesn't try to cross over 3 or 4 or 5 times in an isolation situation, meaning he's just going to attack you. And that's what I feel like I see, particularly in weeks 7, 8, and 9, which is the film of the 3 sacks that I'm showing you here. This is the strip sack that I've already talked about at length against Ronnie Stanley early in the second quarter of their loss in week 9 against the Ravens. The economy of movement, meaning he's not showing a bunch of moves to draw out the offensive tackle's hands. And in fact, when I think he has had trouble, it's for tackles who can get the first shot on him with their length and kind of keep him from getting into his moves. Generally, Boye Mafe is an attack guy in pass rush situations. I think that's going to serve him well in a Mike McDonald defense. I have no idea what OTAs have gone like, or even if he's even attended. I just know from watching Mike McDonald's defense for 2 years that he is going to cause confusion for quarterbacks, and that will benefit the edge defenders, the pass rush, in a way that helps them produce more sacks. Seattle already had the talent to provide 47 sacks last year in their previous defensive system. It would not surprise me at all if you looked at a +8, +10, or even +12 situation. This is what you're going to be asked to do often in Mike McDonald's defense as a boundary side outside linebacker D end, is drop into the hook to curl area between the hash and the area between the top of the numbers and the hash. It's a 2nd and long, 2nd and 12, 2nd and 13. I think ends up being a 3-man rush by Seattle. Tannehill initially looked to his left, nothing there. You'll get the end zone angle to confirm that in a moment. And then he's looking directly in this window for where DeAndre Hopkins is. And in this case, Mafe is in that window. And by the time Tannehill has any thought of even throwing the football, the defensive tackle, I think Edwards, is on him for a sack and a loss of 6. My point is, looks better in coverage than I would have presumed based on his rookie film, number one. Number two, the touchdown given up to Washington, I think, is somewhat anomalous, but I felt like I would be remiss if I didn't mention it here in this video. I think Boye Mafe offers the versatility in coverage and switch rushes that a Kyle Van Noy or a Tyus Bowser was utilized on for the Ravens in 2022 and 2023, along with the extreme athleticism and pursuit that a Jadeveon Clowney showed in Baltimore last season. In summary, I think you have the perfect guy to succeed in this defense, and someone who's already put up 9 sacks on his own. If you look at the impact, the boost that a Mike McDonald defense has offered to edge defenders in the last 2 seasons in the NFL, it's quite significant in the form of Justin Houston, Jadeveon Clowney, and Kyle Van Noy. Now, those guys were extreme veterans, where Boye Mafe is only 24 or 25 years old. If you even extrapolate further back to his lone season as a defensive coordinator in Michigan, you're looking at 25 combined sacks between Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo. Someone in Seattle, or multiple players, is going to get to double-figure sacks. Byron Murphy, Boye Mafe, Uchenna Nwosu, another really underrated player that I like a lot. I know he missed time last year for injury, and during that time, Boye Mafe didn't take advantage of it per se, in terms of continuing his run of at least 1 sack in 7 weeks in a row. I think he's going to have a spectacular season in 2024. Nothing would surprise me from Seattle's defense. The only position I don't know a whole lot about, and I'm not going to pretend that I do, is the inside linebacker position. But at the front level, defensive tackles, defensive ends, outside linebackers, and DB situation, I think Seattle's got all the talent in the world to make the Mike McDonald defense work. And I think Boye Mafe is going to be one of the centerpieces for that. If you enjoyed this video and you think other Seahawks fans would appreciate the film study / commentary that's focused on Boye Mafe, but also Mike McDonald's defensive style and what I think he's trying to accomplish overall, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach. If you have other film study suggestions for me, Seahawks related or otherwise, please consider leaving a comment to let me know what you'd like to see me cover next.